What does it mean to be in command of your voice? If you're somebody who is hesitant when you speak, if you're unsure whether to put your thoughts out there, if you are worried about what others will think, and if you don't know how to convey your confidence and competence when you communicate, then this video is for you. Being in command of your voice is where you have the self-confidence to communicate your ideas, your feelings, and your opinions with conviction to anybody, and you've mastered the verbal techniques to communicate those things in a powerful way. You no doubt admire people who are in command of their voice, and as you watch this video, you might have someone in particular in mind. And I bet every time you see them speak, you tell yourself, I would love to communicate just like they do. It's conceivable that what you like about them is that they raise different viewpoints, even if it's against the consensus. They add fresh new perspectives to the conversation, even topics that others are scared to talk about. And they think and speak for themselves. They don't follow the thoughts of others and repeat what the accepted narrative is. How do they do this? How do they have this much command over their voice and confidence in themselves? That's what we're going to delve into in this video. When I talked about what does it mean to be in command of your voice at the beginning of this video, I talked about having the self-confidence to communicate your ideas, your feelings, and your opinions. It's this self-confidence that is crucial to you being in command of your voice because it's what will help you to develop and impart, or in other words, transmit or share with other people, your ideas, your feelings, and your opinions. But self-confidence in general can be really hard to get because it's about putting yourself out there without any regard about what others are going to think or say about you. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty self-conscious. Before I started my YouTube channel, the thought of sharing my ideas and my thoughts and opinions with other people in a very public way made me feel really vulnerable. What if people disagree with me? What if they thought I wasn't intelligent enough? And for a long time, these fears caused me to stay on the sidelines and to not be so public with my ideas and my opinions. But one thing I've learned in my journey to becoming more public on YouTube, on my podcast, and on social media as well, is that people crave fresh perspectives. People are fascinated with new ideas and different ways of looking at things, and they're eager to learn and to understand what those fresh perspectives are. And it's this awareness that has helped me to build more confidence in my ideas, feelings, and opinions, and encourage me to share them more. It's something that you need to build gradually. So start by sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and opinions with a small group of people and people that you trust. Over time, as you start to share more thoughts with different people and with more people, you'll start to learn that it's not as dangerous as you think. It doesn't make you as vulnerable as you think. And gradually, your self-confidence will grow and grow. And in the majority of cases, including mine, you will start to learn that people will follow your thought leadership and they'll actively chase you down for your next ideas. If you're an emerging leader, this is a very valuable position for you to be in because it means that your boss or other bosses who you could work with in the future will start to pursue you for your thought leadership because they want somebody who is a thought leader on their team. As you build more self-confidence in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions, you will also start to believe in them more. Because when you start out being hesitant or unsure about your ideas, thoughts, and opinions, you can be very easily swayed to other people's way of thinking. When you're easily swayed, this means you don't have the self-confidence or the conviction in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions. And that means that you are not in command of your voice. Your voice isn't yours, it's the voice of someone else. You've renounced your ideas, thoughts, and opinions, and you've adopted the voice of another person. In a way, belief in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions and self-confidence in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions, they go hand in hand. It's hard to say where it starts, a bit like the chicken and egg, which one comes first. But my thinking is that it starts with belief in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions. And then you start to develop some self-confidence to share those ideas and thoughts and opinions. And as you do that, you start to believe more in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions that you share. As all of that builds up, then you are in a state where you are in command of your voice. On top of that, it's really important that you rid yourself of the need for approval. If you look for approval when you start to share your ideas, thoughts, and opinions, and then you surrender when you don't get that approval, then it can cause you to stop believing in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions that you had in the first place. Essentially, you lose the core belief that you started with. And the last part of believing in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions is to have adequate knowledge. When you have adequate knowledge about the points or the content that you're communicating, then you have more resources to back it up and to defend it. For example, in a meeting, when you share an innovative idea, people are going to want to know all they can about it. What is the idea? What are the benefits of the idea? What are the downsides of the idea? What are the steps involved? What if the idea goes wrong? If you go into the meeting without all of this information, then you won't be able to back up your idea. People will start to question it. This will cause you to start losing belief in your idea, and it will cause you to start losing self-confidence in yourself and also your idea that you are sharing. So you need adequate knowledge in order for you to believe in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions. Once you've done the mental preparation of having the self-confidence, believing in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions, then you need to move on to verbal techniques so you can be more in command of your voice. And here, you need to use decisive language. This is where you speak with confidence and certainty as opposed to being reluctant and hesitant. When you are confident or certain, you use vocabulary that is strong, clear, and unambiguous. For example, instead of using probably, you would use definitely. Instead of using maybe, you would use obviously. This strong, clear, decisive vocabulary leaves people with a clear message of what you're saying, so they're not confused about what your message is. You also need to use sentences that are short and straight to the point. For example, the quarterly results will be released this Friday. Instead of, I think that the quarterly results for the TPS reports are supposed to be released this Friday. Do you see how much shorter and more direct the first example is? You also need to use assertive requests instead of passive questions. For example, I need you to email me the quarterly results. Instead of, I was wondering, would it be possible for you to email me the quarterly results when you have a moment? Again, do you see how much shorter and more direct the first example is? Decisive language is the core to being in command of your voice. It helps people to believe in what you're saying, so they're more likely to follow your way of thinking. It also helps you to build self-confidence in your ideas, thoughts, and opinions because you're not confusing your mind with cautious, hesitant, or apprehensive language. And this results in strong congruence between your mind, your beliefs, and your communication. And when you have all three in sync, you're not only in command of your voice, you're a very powerful communicator. One of the mistakes I see a lot of people make that shows they're not in command of their voice is when they start their sentences off in a weak and quiet way, rather than in a strong and loud way. For example, I think we should ask management if we can have casual Fridays in the office. What do you all think? Can you agree that this second example makes me sound like I am much more in command of my voice? The way you start your sentence and the volume you use when you speak is incredibly important in grabbing people's attention and conveying confidence. Think back to a time when you were hesitant to speak up. Maybe it was during a meeting where there were other people who were a lot more senior than you. Because you felt hesitant, it's very likely that you started to speak in a way that was hesitant as well. You weren't too bold with your ideas, your thoughts and opinions. You didn't speak too loudly in the beginning in case somebody disagreed with you. Your mental state dictated how you spoke and the style of communication that you used. But if you've developed self-confidence in your ideas, thoughts and opinions, if you've developed belief in your ideas, thoughts and opinions, then you are much more likely to start your sentence off strong and loud. You would use strong, decisive vocabulary like I talked about in the last point. You would get straight to the point. You would also eliminate fillers or other hesitant language when you communicate. And you would definitely have a volume that was loud enough so everybody could hear you, even the person who was at the back of the room. I think the most important part of being in command of your voice is to own the conversation. And this means to not let people interrupt you and to not let people take the conversation away from you. It's your time to share your ideas, thoughts, and opinion. It's your talking space. You should own it. It might sound a little bit authoritative, but when you're somebody who is constantly being interrupted and when others are constantly taking away your talking space, you have to be pretty drastic in the way you react. There are a number of techniques that you can use to stop people interrupting you and stop people taking the conversation away from you. I'm going to share 4 of those with you right now. Keep people hooked on what you're saying, and you do this through the words that you use, your verbal communication. For example, by the way, I want to say this, or I want to add something else. You can use these phrases when you detect that somebody is going to interrupt you. You can also set expectations, and a good way of doing this is to outline the points or the number of points that you're going to be talking about. That way, when people start to listen to you, they expect you to talk about 2 or 3 or maybe 5 points, and they'll generally wait until you've finished all of the points that you're talking about before they interrupt you. Or you can verbally state, "I'm not finished yet," or "John, let me finish." You can also use nonverbal gestures like raising your hand, either your hand or your pointed finger as you were talking when somebody is trying to interrupt you to indicate that you were not finished and they need to wait for you to finish first. Or you can look at them in the eye. Use eye contact with the person who is trying to interrupt you to deter them from interrupting you in the future. All of these techniques are used by powerful speakers so they can own the conversation, so they can guard their talking space, and so they can be in command of their voice. I encourage you to carefully analyze interviews with influential people or leaders and carefully look at the verbal and the nonverbal cues they use in order to be in command of their voice. A large part about being in command of your voice is to be clear and concise when you speak. And part of this is to start off your sentences strong and loud, which I have briefly talked about already in this video. And I do delve into this concept and many other concepts on how to be clear and concise when you speak in another video on my YouTube channel, which you will find right here. You will also learn more communication tips on my podcast, The Leadership Pod. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon as well, and many others. I'll put a link to that podcast in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and got a lot of valuable information from it. If you did like it, please hit the like button below. Subscribe to my channel as well for more content like this every week, and I will see you next week in another video.